Guten Tag guys, in today's video we'll talk about why you need to lie to beginners. But isn't lying wrong? Well, yes, actually lying to beginners and telling them stuff like they can spot reduce fat or they need to take your body type quiz or even crazy stuff like telling them that testosterone is a supplement, lying like this is bad and wrong and you should definitely not do that. What I want to talk about is not really lying but could be considered lying, and it's teaching wrong and oversimplified models. So why then did I call it lying? Well, because it sounds better. And don't you complain, you clicked on it. And I guess you would have not clicked on a video that was titled, "It sometimes makes sense to teach oversimplified models to someone with no prior knowledge and only add further nuance once they learn more." This is a quote often used in statistics, but it also applies here. Usually it's used to express that even our best models don't represent reality 100%. But if you think about it, it could also mean that even not our best models could be useful depending on the situation. And that's what I want to talk about today. Even bad models can be good. We could talk about a lot of things here, but I want to focus on just one thing, and that is exercise execution. What is good technique? What is bad technique? Does good technique even exist? All good questions, and so much could be said on the topic. But if you teach a beginner and you teach someone new, then you need to start somewhere. And sometimes the somewhere is not 100% accurate. Like for example, keeping your back neutral in the deadlift, which is far from bad advice, but if you look at a lot of good deadlifters, they have a rounded back. And it seems to be safe as long as you do it controlled and as long as you are adapted to lifting this way. Or like telling beginners to not let their knees cave in during a squat, which is also not bad advice. But if you look at a lot of Chinese weightlifters, for example, they have quite a bit of knee valgus and they seem to be fine. So maybe it doesn't pose a real problem, but I think that telling beginners not to do it is still the better way to go. Same goes for pressing or pulling behind the neck. Telling beginners in general to avoid it is good, but for someone who has adequate mobility, there doesn't seem to be a problem really. As with most things, exercise execution and what is okay and what is not good technique is more complicated than it seems at first. And sometimes you need to start with teaching a simplified and somewhat wrong model at first. It's the same in math. First you learn about natural numbers, then you learn about fractures, then you learn about negative numbers, and only at the end you come to imaginary numbers. Or in physics, where we start out with the atoms as a hard ball, then we learn about the nucleus and the electrons, then we learn that the nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons, and only way down the line quarks and wave functions get mentioned. And we need to do the same in fitness. But in these mainstream fields, the path of knowledge is much clearer. No one would question teachers that teach oversimplified models because it's clear that they know more and that you will learn more later on. But in the fitness space, there's much more misinformation and no real one way to do stuff. So in general, people are very critical of other people's content. And in general, being a bit skeptical is definitely good, especially in the fitness industry. But we also shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some people are teaching you shit with wrong models and bad intentions. And other people are using oversimplified wrong models to make the learning easier for you. And these two things are by no means the same. And I wanted to talk about this today because when I made my first few videos where I was mainly talking about exercise execution, I was teaching like I would somebody that does the exercise for the first time. And I think I did a good job in general, but sometimes I think about stuff like, I shouldn't have said that. Like for example, I shouldn't have said that rounding your back can lead to injury or that letting your knees cave in is necessarily a bad thing. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have said these things or added more nuance from the start, but I also think that teaching beginners a bit too strict of technique is not that bad in general. Because way down the line, when they learn more, they will learn that technique is not that vital. And for someone that is a beginner and doesn't have that much experience with exercising and doing different movements, it's generally better to be a bit on the stricter side. But I also think that if you teach oversimplified models to beginners, then somewhere in your work, you need to mention that these are oversimplified models and that it's not as black and white in general. Because otherwise we end up with millions of people congratulating themselves on how smart they are because they never let the shoulders internally rotate while also making almost no progress. Because their messiah is fear-mongering about everything. And because I want to avoid that on my channel, I am making this video. I'm also thinking about making a small series where I go into a bit more detail on exercise execution, on exercises that I already did. So if you're interested in that, let me know. That's all for today's video. If you've watched this far, then thank you very much. As always, you're very welcome to leave me some likes and some criticisms down in the comments below. That's the wrong thing, you don't leave the likes in the comments, but whatever. Subscribe, write comments, you're very welcome, blah blah blah. This war's für heute, thanks for watching.